Hi, everyone. My name is Rabbi Abram Goodstein, and this is a sermon that I gave on May 1st, 2020. So, I want to talk about some of the scholars in the Talmud who had this really big argument. Now, much of the Talmud is an argument, but this is like the big one. The question is, what is the most important principle in the Torah? And this question is so big. You would think our rabbinic and scholarly ancestors would pause a moment to reflect on such a massive undertaking. But not so. The talmudic scholars instantly offer their opinions as if they were already ready for this question. And so a really persuasive answer comes from someone named Ben Azzi, who says in Genesis 5:1 is the clear winner, which states, God created humans in the image of God, a value that we call B'Tselem Elohim. Now, Ben Azzi is not using this value the way we use it today. Today, we use it as a means to show why we are an egalitarian and an LGBTQ positive community. No, Ben Azzi used this value to show how we are supposed to treat others. He believed that people's biases and anecdotal experiences made them unqualified to decide on how well to treat others. And he's quoted as saying, you should not say, since I am hated, let my neighbor be similarly hated, or since I am in trouble, let my neighbor be similarly in trouble. And he continues, you should remember that both you and your neighbor were created in the likeness of God. What Ben Azzi is trying to say is just because your neighbor is vastly different from you and may hold different political agendas and opposing worldviews, you still need to treat them with respect and dignity because they too are made in the image of God. And what Ben Azzi has asked us to do is hard. I think it's easy to be open and welcoming to people with similar values and worldviews, but it's incredibly challenging to be the same to communities that differ vastly from our own values. And wisely, I believe that he finds this to be the most important principle in the Torah for this very reason, but as he takes how we feel about others out of our hands. And as a modern commentator, Rabbi Harvey Fields writes, we are to treat others with respect and love, not because we are commanded to do so. We're to respect the rights, dignity, and feelings of others because, like us, they were created in God's likeness. Anyways, I would have imagined that such a cogent and well thought out argument would win this contest, but not so, because the famous Rabbi Akiba could not disagree more. He vehemently claimed that the line, love your neighbor as yourself, is the most important principle found in the Torah. And this line comes from Leviticus 19:18, which is from this week's Torah portion. So I got there. And this needs some unpacking, because how does one love themselves? Furthermore, how does one transfer those same feelings to others, especially those to whom you may not share your values? Well, like all great rabbis and scholars, Rabbi Akiba quotes another famous Talmud scholar, Hillel. And with Hillel comes a story. Once upon a time, there was a presumptuous young man who went to Hillel and Shammai, who are famous Talmudic rivals, and told them, I will convert to Judaism if you can teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot. Now, Shammai was deeply insulted by this. He found the whole notion preposterous and waved the young man away. Hillel accepts the challenge instantly and said, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbors. That is the whole Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and study. Note how Hillel flipped the love your neighbor as yourself quote from a positive commandment to a negative commandment. Do not treat your neighbor in a way that you hate to be treated. In this way, Hillel is answering my second question first. How do we transfer love to our neighbor? We do it by making sure we treat our neighbors the way we want to be treated. As for my first question, what does loving yourself even look like? Hillel has an answer for that too. He says, if I am not for myself, then who is for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Essentially, Hillel is saying that we have to be able to advocate and stand up for ourselves. That is a pathway to love ourselves. However, if we go too far, then we become selfish. And finally, we can't wait or procrastinate to advocate for ourselves, but we have to stand up for ourselves in the moment. And it's funny, but the deeper I looked into this argument of what is the most important principle in the Torah, the more I felt there is a deeper, unasked question going on here. And that is, what is the nature of love? And can we love others as ourselves? Well, it's hard to say who started this argument. It's almost as if the asker of the question knew that the answer would involve love, one way or another. In some ways, it's beautiful, because no matter how one answers the question, it will clearly be about how we should treat ourselves or how we should treat others. And this makes sense, because after all, the Torah means law. It contains a law code. And this question could not be more essential today. Because loving your neighbor as yourself has this inherent close proximity involved with the statement. Yet how do we love when we cannot be physically near our loved ones? And how do we love our leaders when we believe some of our leaders are not reacting well or appropriately to our national crisis? And so the Talmud has offered us some choices. We can love others because they too are made in the image of God. In fact, we can love and still disagree. And that seems to happen to me all the time. As for Rabbi Akiba said, we can offer the same love to others that we have to ourselves, that we have with ourselves. Or as Hillel put it, we can choose to treat others as we want to be treated. And I will admit that none of these answers are terribly satisfying for those who are truly upset with our current situation. But I would encourage you to consider that we need to decide the kind of nation we want to be as we move forward through this crisis. And a great tool for the discourse required is to remember that we should love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And if that doesn't work, then remember we're all created in God's image. Anyways, thank you, and take care.